coming to you from the historic Hart Building in Marysville, California, in Studio 93, in the Tank with Fish, with your host, Bob Fischetti.
Well, welcome to another adventure in the adventure series of Fish and Minnow.
It is an adventure.
It is. It is. You know, we got the tank all warmed up,
yep.
Right? It's you stuck your finger in it and said it's the
yep.
right temperature.
Yep.
We talked to our guest, who we always don't tell them until the guest shows up. She agreed it was the right temperature.
She's coming in for a swim.
She's deciding on whether to do a swan dive, jackknife, double back flip. She can't figure it out. I keep saying, let's take the diving board out. Just
maybe.
let them slip in.
Maybe. But then you get to that point where it's like right at your stomach and you either have to go all in or you're going back out.
It's too late for you, Kelly. You're all in.
I just jump. I'm more of a cannonball person.
Yeah. So we're going to talk bread.
Okay.
All right. So I bought bread from you.
Yes.
And I took it home. And after a couple of days, it starts getting spots on it.
Yeah.
Right. Which I just take as penicillin, eat it anyway, and hope for the best.
Cures all that ails you.
Yeah. But it's not called medical bread. So that's probably a bad idea. So anyway, so I'm talking to you about it. And you said, did you read the instructions?
No. And I said, no, you were too busy manspreading to read the instructions that come on.
It's bread.
Folks, there is a label on this bread and it's not hidden. It's not,
No,
it's on the front of the package and it says, this bread is made without preservatives. If you will not eat it in the first 2 to 3 days, slice and freeze to preserve freshness. Does Fish listen? No.
Well, here's what Fish did. So I took the loaf out of the package. I sliced it. Really, I did a great job. You'd have been. I
haven't seen pictures, so I'm not sure.
Oh, I should have taken pictures.
Oh, okay.
The first 2 slices kind of laid down on a wood cutting board.
I could hire you. I could always use somebody to slice bread.
Oh, I love slicing bread. I don't know why. Yeah.
Serial killer. Just kidding.
So anyway, I slice it up and I stick it in a plastic bag.
Okay.
Throw it up on the counter, and the next day I made 2 pieces of toast, which you have to make an adjustment with your toaster.
Yes, for sourdough. It doesn't toast as well.
No, yeah, so it has to be a little longer.
Yeah, it's actually the reaction because store-bought bread has sugar in it. So the sugar reacts and toasts quickly. Well, a true sourdough is water, flour, salt. So it needs to toast longer.
See, folks, and this is why I'm doing this. So when you buy really good bread, you'll know how to treat it.
Really just read the directions that are on the package because it also says...
That's too much.
Because it also says to store it in the original bag it came in.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Stop it.
I am going to... The next time you order bread, I'm going to blow up the directions.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Put it on my phone.
And it's going to be the whole front of the bag as just directions. Better yet, I'm just going to give it to Patty.
Well, yeah. Patty loved it. Patty loves the scones. The scones are great. And I can't make up my mind. She gets 2 different ones.
She gets 2. She gets apricot almond, and she gets... Now, I make Patty special scones. It's not something we offer, but it's orange cranberry with walnuts on top.
She loves walnuts. Yeah. She loves pecans, walnuts, almonds.
Well, we have a maple pecan one.
My wife's a nut.
Yeah. I'm going to tell her you said that. You better hope she's not watching this next to you.
It's like, really?
You better not be in arm's distance when she watches this.
Sit on the other couch.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's Kelly and I.
Here she is, just chatting about bread.
So we got a great guest this morning.
Yeah.
I am excited about this guest. I have wanted her on the air from day one when I met her to have her in any kind of interview situation. She is absolutely brilliant. I mean, she is absolutely...
I don't know her, so I'm excited to get to know her.
You're going to love it. And yet she's very personable and very real. But she is... You can almost like see the wheels turning. Yeah. You know how we've had different people in here? And you can tell. One of my favorite was Dominic Belza.
Yeah.
He was so careful on his answers. I mean, he was like... He would just look at you for a few seconds.
He's
and you were like...
pauser. And I'm an oversharer, so I'm like the opposite of Dom. Dom like pauses and he waits, and I'm just like, blah, whatever. Whatever goes on comes out.
I'm pretty sure that's why we get along.
Probably. Yeah, I could see it.
Because I'm not a baker. I can't even follow instructions, apparently. You're going to get shirts that have the instructions for the bread on.
I'll just be standing there when you cut your bread with a shirt of instructions.
Yeah. I'm sending you a picture. I'm a good bread cutter.
Okay.
I should work in the big bread store.
You should
big
work
bread
in the
building.
Big bread building.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to think about that one.
We're going to get one of those. All right, listen, we're going to be right back. A couple of things. I want to thank you for tuning into these. I've been hearing from people all the time. Oh, I watch those all the time. I just want to remind you, it's on 93Q TV, and then look for In the Tank with Fish and Minnow. And then what we try to do in every one of these episodes is somebody from the community that you might know, and you know them by their job. It's kind of like when two men meet, they say, hey, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a plumber. And that's it. When two women meet, they go back their history, clear back to the Mayflower. I mean, they just...
Yeah, you know where I was born within the first few minutes of
yes.
meeting me. Yeah.
It's like this. So what we try to do here is really a little of both.
Yeah.
But we're really looking for who really are you? So the community gets to know. Our goal really is for the community to know people. Yeah.
In a different way. Who are the people in your neighborhood?
Yeah, I'm a little worried about what they know about you and I.
I know. Too much.
So listen, we're going to be right back. Thanks for watching. I am going to mention later, Kelly and I have some surprises coming up. They are such interesting surprises. Kelly doesn't even know yet.
Always a surprise.
93Q Radio was an opportunity for what's called an LPFM to give the community a voice.
The big part of what's happening here is it's us. It's the community of us.
The work that Mr. Fischetti has done with us to promote public education has been absolutely groundbreaking.
They have the pulse of our community, from the nonprofits to the local governments. If you want to find out what's happening in our community, get on board with 93Q.
And 93Q does so much to help our community, helps us promote our local events, as well as local businesses, and tell our story about what we do here in Yuba Sutter.
The folks that work here, they're part of our community, so they understand our needs, and that's important.
Local radio is so important. During times of emergency, they're there. We lean on them to provide information to our public.
My wife and I are glad to support 93Q. We're going to do it on a monthly basis, but I really recommend that if you want to make your community better, this is a great place to take a first step right here.
So if you can, reach deep in your pocket and give to 93Q.
93Q is a great partner for law enforcement, and they're a great partner for the Yuba Sutter area.
We're really asking people if you can give $10, $15, $20 a month, and then that enables us to continue to put small business spots on the air, nonprofits, organizations that are they're using every dollar they got just to operate, and they don't have extra money to spend on really promoting their cause. And that is why community radio, to me, I'm grateful to be part of it, and that's why it's important.
Hi, and welcome back to In the Tank with Fish and Minnow. Today's special guest is DeDe Cordell, which was an easy name to say, and you might recognize her voice.
Oh, I guess, you might, huh? Yeah.
She has a voice for radio.
Oh, thanks.
But we're not going to start there. Go ahead. You love
Well, we are just
going
to say if they recognize the voice, it's because on our radio station, DeDe does all the spots for Yuba Water Agency.
Yeah.
Yuba River. No, Yuba Water Agency. There's no Yuba River.
Well, we're only one of your major sponsors, Fish.
And have been for years. Literally for years.
DeDe, don't feel bad. I sponsored their radiothon, and he couldn't remember the name of the bakery, so we're fine.
So, have you ever had a word stick in your head and you think, I know that word? But,
yes.
So instead of saying bakery, I said the big bread building. It's like,
this is what we're working with. Just
so because I want to see your business progress, we're looking for a big bread building so that we can. It's like big bread building.
So, what bakery do you have, Kelly?
Bear Creek Artisan Sourdough.
Oh, look how easy that was to say.
I know. He was like Big River, Stream. antelope. I don't know. You said everything but bear.
Somebody else did that. They couldn't get that name.
Yeah.
It was a Gary. Anyway, yeah. We just
Well, yes, I work for Yuba Water Agency.
Yuba Water Agency, which is really funny because when we first met, you were working there and they were going through the name change and making a decision. And you would think by now, how many years ago is that?
That was 5 years ago, 2018.
Yeah.
6 years ago.
And so by now I should have caught it.
Are you saying I have 6 more years of this?
Probably.
It's only going to get worse.
Just smile and nod, Kelly.
Yeah,
It's all good.
exactly. Yes.
So we want to know about DeDe. We want to know, where was DeDe born?
So I came over on the Mayflower. I've been dying to say that. I was like, oh my God. You're right, though. Women
Please
do. We go, oh my God, and we go deep and we just get to know each other very. You're so right about that. I grew up here. I was born and raised here in Marysville. I was born at what used to be Fremont Hospital.
Almost all our guests. Yeah. I don't know. We're hitting a trend here.
Yeah.
Well, all the cool kids are from here.
Apparently, we have to start
we should
ahead of time and screening people.
I'm pretty sure the cool kids were born in Brooklyn. But
Here we go.
So where did you graduate high school?
Lyndhurst, yeah.
Oh, I love Lyndhurst.
Home of the Blazers, yep.
Lyndhurst is one of the best kept secrets in this area.
Yeah, we had them on.
Yeah, and I went out. I was invited. We've had interns from there. I was invited to that campus. It's a gorgeous campus. Great teachers. I'm enamored with the vice principal. She is amazing. Mimi,
awesome.
She went there. And so her whole story just,
Is that Lucy, the intern that we had come on the show with you that one day? Lucy's sister works there. And I thought she said,
it might be Mimi. Her name is impossible to pronounce.
Yes.
You have to
We call her Mimi.
Yeah, we just went with Mimi, but just incredible people. I got a chance to go out. I met the principal, but she came on the air and she's just a live wire. But she's like Blazers forever.
Yeah,
she is Blazers forever. And I keep meeting people who. That's amazing.
Yeah. You didn't know that? How did you not know that?
I got some quality people.
Well, I knew because of your husband, you had a connection with the military.
Yes.
So I didn't know a lot of times with military, like with me, I was born in Brooklyn and now I'm here because I met my wife overseas and she was from here. And when she put in for her assignment, she didn't ask me. She just came here. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to California.
Guess that
was it.
Yeah. No, ours was kind of the opposite. We were living in D.C. and an opportunity came up to come back to California for me. And I told my husband, I said, hey, I'm really interested in this job at the Corps of Engineers in Sacramento. And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead and put your name in. And if you get it, I've got 28 years at this point. If you get it, I'll retire. And then I got it. And because he didn't care where we retired. And so I did. I wanted to be closer to home. I wanted to be closer to my daddy. So,
cool.
And I'm so glad I did. I came back and got several good years with my dad before he passed. So that was really nice to be home. And
so there is something about the place we call home. And so what is it for you that, having grown up here, it's like comfort food. There's food that my mom made that I don't care what anybody says, nobody will ever make it as good as my mom, right? And so there are things that you get attached to. If you had that pinpoint, what makes this home? What is that?
It's people. It's totally people. In all honesty, I graduated on Friday and I moved away on Sunday. I couldn't get out of here fast enough. And that was my experience growing up. I was like, there's nothing for me here. And it was getting more and more sad and depressing all the time. But it has come a long way. And it like I would come home to visit my dad and it just always felt like home, right? And then you're bumping into friends in the grocery store. Kid you not, my very first day on the job, Kurt Akins, who was our general manager at the time, took me to an Indian restaurant in Yuba City, and we're chatting while we're serving up food, and I hear, DeDe? And I'm like, I look, and sure enough, there's my friend, just calling my name, and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in 30 years, but hi. So yeah, it's a small world. But I have been all over the world and back again. So, and the majority of that was me just being crazy and trying new things and doing things. I actually met my husband in Germany. So
he was on radio.
He was on the radio as well. Yeah.
And I keep pressing to get him to come by.
He has a great voice. Yeah.
So I'm making my appeal again.
Are you listening, honey?
Publicly. He's probably not, but he will watch this.
I
right?
hope so.
And so
I don't know. Sometimes I think he gets sick of hearing my voice, so maybe he won't watch it.
That was the thing. When I met you, I was just amazed. You have just this great voice. Your voice says, "Welcome home."
No.
Now, I don't know how exactly that develops in a person, but I can see why people want you to do voiceovers, because it's this very welcoming. It's not this Alexa, which they try to make welcoming, and she is not welcoming.
No.
She's like invasive.
I should have made a DeDe.
Yours says, "Come on in and sit here, and I'm going to make some tea, and we're going to chat." Her voice says, "I want to know what your thoughts are, because I'm going to send you things."
Yeah, that's exactly what she's doing.
Exactly. Right? So,
well, thank you. You are always so good for my ego.
if you're ever feeling depressed, call me.
I know.
I will tell you who you
having a rough day. Haven't got any voice jobs in a while. I'm going to goldfish, so builds me back up.
Okay, so I don't want to get too far ahead. I want to know
back
about
to the Mayflower.
Yeah, not quite. I want to know what 12-year-old DeDe was like.
Oh.
What were you like as a young girl?
Oh my God, you had to pick 12. Why 12?
Tell us the answers.
Okay, this is a true story, and I've been thinking about this a lot because my son is 12.
Oh,
and
that's right. And his name is Ranger.
Ranger, named after the Army Rangers. Yeah, my husband was an Army Ranger, and so Ranger turning 12 has been this like, oh my God, what am I in for? Because when I was 12, I cannot let Ranger watch this now because I don't want him to know these things about me. I got suspended twice that year. I was at Yuba Gardens. What? Oh my God, I'm getting so. Oh my God, this is embarrassing. I got suspended twice. Once for fighting with Jackie Elmer. But we didn't actually fight. We just got in each other's faces. We're all friends on Facebook now.
I love you more now than ever. That's what we have in common. That was it all along.
It was Jackie.
You were a
Did you fight with Jackie?
No. Yeah, basically.
You the fifth in my group.
That was the year I was like feeling very rebellious. I wore parachute pants because it was the 80s. I wore parachute pants and like Rat T-shirts, like Rat music and RAT, the heavy metal, right? I had a crop for my haircut. It was bad. And what's funny is my school
pictures that we can put on later?
Yes.
I don't think any of those exist, but I have a picture of my school yearbook photo, taken at like the first couple weeks of school. Yeah. And I'm all prim and proper with a collared shirt and a little perm and bangs. And then within a few weeks of that, I just started exploring and pushing the boundaries. And so, yeah, I got suspended once for fighting with Jackie, and we didn't even actually fight. We just got in each other's faces, and then it got broken up. But we got suspended for threatening to fight, I guess. And then once for, I'm so mortified to say this, having cigarettes in my locker. What's funny is I didn't even smoke. I just thought it was cool. Because I thought people would think I was cool because it would make me look tough or something. Wow. I was just so not smart at the time, and so yeah, it was a hell of a funny year. It was just not my best year. I went back to being a normal human in 8th grade. So,
but don't we all kind of need that?
Yes,
it has to happen.
Yes,
I try to explain that to my son. Right, he's got 2 boys that are teenagers now. And one of them I ended up sitting in the car with, and I'm talking to him, and I said, Gino, this is real life.
Yeah.
You're going to go through this. That's why I bought you a phone. You can call Grandpa anytime. I went through it. Your dad went through it. I'll tell you stories about your dad. I will let the cat out of the bag. And it's like, but I would have never guessed that about you. I can't imagine. I cannot. I cannot
picture it.
It's like you hung out with my fellas. You'd have been. This girl would have been. Yeah, I'm going. She'd have been. I had a convertible. Nobody ever used the doors ever.
At 12.
No.
They just hopped over.
They just would jump in.
Yeah.
The middle of winter in St. Louis, and I'd have the top down.
Oh, my
We'd all be riding around. Yeah.
Well, okay, here's another funny story for you. Speaking of cars, my first car was a Yugo.
Stop.
Isn't that mortifyingly embarrassing?
Yeah, that's worse.
I'm like,
I don't care what you say, it can never get worse than that.
No.
What color was it? This could get worse.
It was red-ish.
Okay, that's not bad.
I wouldn't
was,
even call it like
puke
really
green.
red. This car was so bad. We used to joke, my Yugo no go. And one time I remember I was at Sandy's house, and I was backing out of Sandy's house, and as I'm looking back behind me, my my rear window on the passenger side just fell out onto the ground and shattered. It just fell out. I'm like, how does that happen? Isn't it supposed to be? That thing was such a piece of junk, and half the time it was broken. And and then I got into a car accident once on E Street, right in front of Jack in the Box, because my friend Christina and I were being obnoxious. We were so. Yeah. See, there's what did you do? What did you put in my coffee? I mean,
I told you it's like Oprah. You just come on the show, we unpack it all, but there's no car.
I can't believe I'm telling these stories.
Tell us everything else.
But I want people to know that people that are professional and in a real position, they were a teenager.
Yes.
Once.
Yeah.
They grew through things. I don't know what it is. People automatically figure me out. They were like, oh, he was that boy.
You were trouble.
He was trouble. I was the kind of boy, you do not let your daughter date a guy like that. I told my wife, your parents never told you don't date a boy whose last name ends in a vowel?
No.
She was like, yeah. So I love it, though.
Yeah, I got into plenty of trouble as a kid, and but I also did all the other things, right? I was student body president. I was a cheerleader. I played sports until like my freshman year, and then I transitioned to cheerleading. And I look back at that and I'll go, why did I do that? I should have stayed in sports.
You're very smart. You're a brilliant woman. At what point did you recognize I can absorb information, I can process it, I have real ideas? When did that happen for DeDe?
Honestly, I think about this sometimes when I see some of the same characteristics in my son of the like laziness, not wanting to work as hard and trying to figure out all the ways to get around things. I worked that as much as I could, as long as I could. But some stuff came very easily, right? So I didn't get bad grades, but I didn't try very hard. And I think about it now and I regret it. I wish if I had tried harder, who knows what opportunities I could have had. But I say that knowing it all worked out great, right? Like my life turned out just fine, but it was through sheer grit and hard work and busting my butt for years. And my freshman year in college, I had a couple of scholarships, just like little local scholarships, and some graduation money from like my grandma and my uncle. And then that money dried up. And I was like, oh my God, I got to actually figure out how I'm going to pay for this, right? Like I have to pay for these. But I was bound and determined I was going to get a college degree. There was like no way I was not getting a degree. And I think that when I started having to work for it, and then I developed a much stronger appreciation for how much it costs and how hard it is to achieve. And I'm like, if I'm busting my butt to get this degree, I better learn some stuff. I better understand it. And then when I started actually trying harder and paying more attention and really learning, I think that was probably some of the bigger moments. And then moving to a foreign country. Wow, that was...
So now, why did you move to Germany?
So, okay, well, the quick version is after college, I went into broadcasting and I did television broadcasting for a while. I was at Channel 13 behind the scenes for a while. And then I got my first on-air job up in Eureka. And I was on the air in Eureka for the NBC affiliate, and then went to work for the local radio station as a side job because I was starving to death. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do radio from like. So
wait, I'm going to interrupt you. So I got to wait till you starve before I can get.
Basically.
Well, that's not going to happen.
I definitely needed to make some more money because, I went from what at the time for me was like huge, right? I was like making like $28,000 a year working at Channel 13. And then to come on the air for my first on-air job, I was making $17,000 a year. 16,800 actually. So I was exaggerating. And that was like insanity, right? I mean, and all this pressure. And so then I was like, I can't even pay my rent. I need to get a second job. So that's how I ended up in radio, which I loved so much. It was so much fun. And the trade was a nice blessing, right? To be able to do some trade for advertising. Yeah. And then we would get to play golf for free, and we would get to go to all the fun events as MCs and things that we would never have been able to afford to do on our own. And so I started developing a better appreciation for the finer things in life there. And then I went back to TV as the morning show anchor for the CBS affiliate up there, and then moved to San Luis Obispo for the morning show gig there. And so I was working up in San Luis Obispo and was looking for my next job. What's going to be my next move? In TV, your contracts are usually 2 years, and the whole goal is to try and move up to something bigger and better, unless you manage to get lucky enough to find a place that you love to live, that you can afford to live. And if I could have afforded to live in San Luis Obispo, I never would have left. Yeah. But thank goodness for me, they couldn't pay me, and it cost a fortune. So they couldn't afford to pay more than that, and they could take all these people who were begging at the door to get their next job. So I was looking for that job, and the opportunity, it was on a tvjobs.com website that was for AFN, American Forces Network, Europe. Yep. And I was looking at this going, what? Europe? It never even crossed my mind to think to look outside of the country, but this was working for the American government as a broadcaster in Germany to broadcast to all the soldiers and civilians who live overseas on behalf of the American government. And I thought, I could go live in Europe and see the world. And this is right after 9/11. So there was an element of like, I can serve my country doing what I can do, right? Using my skills. And it was amazing. And then I got there, moved over with my dogs, and not knowing, me and my 2 big dogs moving to Germany, didn't know a soul, and had never been anywhere but Mexico. And as far as leaving the country was concerned, and I just packed up and went. And I will share one of the things that helped me make that decision. When I was working in San Luis Obispo, a friend of mine who was a public speaker, he was the sole survivor of a military plane crash in the 70s out by Travis, and badly burned. George Burke is his name.
Is that a B-52?
I don't remember the plane, but Google it. George Burke, amazing human. And I met him because he travels all over the country, all over the world probably, giving speeches on safety and things like that. And I had him come speak to an organization that I was helping to put the event on for, having heard him speak somewhere else. And we're having dinner the night before his speech, and we're chatting, and he's talking about how he'd just come from this place and that place. And suddenly I was just struck by, whoa, you get on a plane all the time. How on earth did you ever get back on a plane after everything? Exactly. I mean, he was in intensive care for like 3 years, and he has a nub for an arm now because of this crash, and he's the only survivor. He said, DeDe, I live by the motto that if you do that which you fear the most, the death of fear is certain. And I went, oh my God. Like it was this epiphany that said, I'm going to stop making my choices based on fear. Yeah. I'm going to look it in the eye, and I'm going to go, you know what? I see you, I acknowledge you, and I'm going to push you aside and move on and do what needs to be done. And I have had so many incredible experiences because of that philosophy that he imparted on me all those years ago.
My younger brother was, he was a Marine during Vietnam, and then he got out and went back, and he wanted to go in the Army because my dad was a paratrooper in World War II. And Johnny was 82nd Airborne, which is it's a great story because his son's 82nd Airborne and his son's sons now are 82nd Airborne, the whole family. But he told me this, when you were talking about fear, it made me think of it. He said, I don't care what anybody says. He said, I get to the door of that aircraft. He said, I've had over 500 jumps. He said, my body tells me every time, this is a bad idea.
Yep.
He said, you have to learn how to walk past that.
Yep.
And he was in several plane crashes, a helicopter crash.
Yep.
He survived it all, and he still got back in that aircraft. So when you told me that, I believe that. I don't know if that was the wording that my brother used to do that, but you just do it.
Yeah.
And I found that it's really true in life. There's things that people would say, well, why'd you go do that? And it's like, well, didn't you think that? I mean, it's like with radio. I didn't have a radio background. I was a pastor. And it came up, and I'm doing radio, and I'm like, this is fun.
Yes.
How come I didn't learn about this when I was 20?
Right.
Yeah. And so, I really believe that. So you've made choices over and over again because you saw the value of the excitement and the adventure.
Yes.
But it didn't matter what your body said.
Yes. And before I tell you another story about one of those choices, I have to say airborne all the way. My husband is also 82nd Airborne Division.
Stop it.
Yeah.
I have got to meet him.
You have met him, but, like at the fair or something.
Oh, yeah.
So.
No. Him and I need
a sit-down meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
He has great stories. Yeah. He'll talk your ear off, too. He loves telling military stories.
Because I love that. Yeah, I get with military people. It's like there's nobody else in the room. There's a camaraderie. I don't care what branch of the service you're in. I was in the Air Force and I was military police. They called them apes. Air police, apes. Every cop wants to be called an ape.
Right, yeah.
Put me in, knuckle dragging. That's me, right?
Yeah.
It's like, so anyway, but yeah.
So
but you get with them, it's that camaraderie. So you obviously then met him because he was in the military, and that's who you were talking to. And he was laying in his bunk one day. No, he was sitting in a chair manspreading. He's 82nd Airborne.
He does not manspread.
He was like, what is that voice? And something inside him said, I'm marrying this chick.
It was so the opposite. This is so funny.
Darn, I can't even.
Whatever story you want to tell yourself.
So here's another wild, funny, true story for you, Fish. He tried to not let me get the job at AFN. If it was up to Ray Cordell, I would not have gotten the job at AFN because he said. So how long do we have?
We got
plenty of time.
All right. So in TV broadcasting, you get usually, at least in all the contracts I had, you get a hair allowance for having your hair done, right? You have a makeup allowance, you get a clothing allowance, and a dry cleaning allowance, or at least I did back then. That was a long time ago, and so when I got offered the job at AFN, the commander of AFN, mind you, I have zero military experience. And, I grew up here. I was around people whose parents were in the military, but I didn't have any personal experience or exposure. So I didn't really understand how the system worked. And so he called me and he said, okay, well, we'd love to offer you the job. And this is the salary. And I was like, okay, what about my clothing allowance, my makeup allowance, my hair allowance, and my dry cleaning allowance? And
see where this is going.
He goes, let me see what I can do, right? And I'm thinking, okay, he's going to come back with a better offer, right? And I'm just getting to that point in my career where I'm getting confident about negotiating. Little did I understand the government system where there is no negotiating because here's your steps, right? The government civilian system, your step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So he calls me back the next day and he says, okay, I have been able to get, it wasn't even the next day, maybe it was like a week later, calls me back and says, I've been able to get you a higher amount to kind of compensate for those allowances that you're giving up. And he offered me this really weird amount, which ended in I don't remember what the number was.
37 cents.
$47,326, right? And I was like, that's such a weird number, right? And now I understand it's because it's on the scale and that's what it was.
Buddy.
So he bought me from step 1 to step 4. And I was like, oh, I get there. I meet my husband, who was the command sergeant major. Actually, he was only a sergeant major at the time. He was not command yet.
What?
He was the
Your
sergeant
husband
major.
was a command sergeant major?
He was a command. He retired as a command sergeant major, but he was the sergeant major of AFN.
Oh
and
my gosh.
Apparently, the legend has it now that Mike, who was the commander, he's a really good friend of ours still. He went back to the command group and said, okay, well, our hired choice, she would like to get more money for these reasons. And Ray goes, we don't need a snob like that in a place like this. Let's blah. He's like, let's go back to
this guy.
He's like, we don't need any prima donna. Can we bleep me out? So he's like, let's go back to, let's look at those tapes again. So they go back, they start looking at the tapes, and he goes, all right, what did she say she wanted? So he finally caved, and that's all she wrote, right? I ended up with the job. And
you had to end up with him.
I did.
You had to.
I did.
He's
we were made for each other.
For you.
Yes.
He is perfect. Now that I hear this, it's like DeDe. I mean, not that you need to know this. You've been married for years, got a teenage son. He was the right guy.
He so was.
Man, God must have just swept his hand over you two. And then you have that thing where it almost doesn't work, right? And it's like, but you needed a straight shooter. You could not be married to a schmoozer.
Oh, God, no.
You could not. You had to have a man's man. He's a man.
I'm trying to imagine him schmoozing, and I'm just like, ooh. Like, I can't. It's not in his DNA.
You are 100% girly, and he's 100% man, and it works. That's amazing.
It does work really well. I think it helps that he's amazing. He is an amazing human. He is tough, and he's, am I allowed to say small little cuss words?
Go ahead.
He's badass. He's a badass Army Ranger. Right?
No, that's appropriate
okay,
on here. Yeah.
It's a small one.
Talk about the military. It's like, there's only a few words that they got to do. Like,
okay, good. Because
besides that, unless Facebook kicks it off, we're good, right? And they're not going to.
I don't think they will for that one. But
so
he's amazing.
So you actually did not know any of that, and you showed up.
Yes.
Amazing.
And we became good friends, right? Like we just hit it off very quickly as friends. And it didn't take long at all. Within a few months we were dating. And
wait. I need to know, did Rick tell you the story before he asked you? Ray.
Everybody thinks his name is Rick. It's so funny. I introduce him and they go, Rick, it's nice to meet you. And I'm like, no, it's Ray. Like there's something in the way I say it. I think maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I thought it was Rick. It's like, so did he say, I'd like to take you out, but you need to know this first?
No.
I mean, how did he handle it?
Yeah, how long after did you hear the true story?
I don't remember how long after, but my guess is it was a little ways after we'd started dating.
Yeah, we were married 7 years.
Yeah, exactly. That's told me last year.
Yeah, actually, December will be 20 years we've been married.
Wow.
Yeah, and we waited a long time to have Ranger. We waited until he retired, and so when we moved out here, and he retired, and then we decided to give it a shot and go there, since we wouldn't have to be worried about moving all the time, and who's going to take care of the baby.
Did he retire out of Germany? Was that his last assignment?
No. So from Germany, he got stationed at Fort Meade in Maryland, and so we moved to Fort Meade area, and I took a job in D.C. So I started working in D.C. Crossing out of broadcast. That's when I crossed into like public affairs, public relations. Doing the public affairs stuff for Big Army, doing media training, using my skills to help the general officers and senior civilians in the military figure out how to deal with people like me, how to do an interview and be better at it. And so I did that for 2 years.
Which is critical.
And he was at DINFOS, the Defense Information School, where all of the Army public affairs, all of the services, public affairs, trained killers, as he calls them, go to learn how to be broadcasters and writers and photographers.
Tongue in cheek.
Yeah. Trained killers.
He's 82nd Airborne. Yeah. You guys are trained killers.
Grab that pen. No, in all fairness, somebody just asked me this the other day. Who was it? I think it was one of our board members said, as a like public affairs person in the military. They're not like I'm like, no, even in combat zones, they all carry guns. They all are expected to do whatever needs to be done.
Yeah, they're infantry first. They're whatever their thing is, and then they're their MOS. And so, yeah, that's very common. It's a lot of the military concepts. I'm really glad you had that connection, because those things can be lost. And here you are locally, where I just had this conversation where we have so many veterans in this area. Yeah. And communicating with them and trying to get points across. It's like, you don't just walk out of that. I don't care if you only served a couple of years. You don't walk out of that. And we don't have people in this area that served a couple of years. We have people that retired.
Yeah.
So where did Ray, not Rick? Who's Rick? Ray, you might want to find out who Rick is.
Is that the UPS guy's name?
Yes.
He always says, because our son has red hair, and Ray takes mostly after his dad, who was Native American. His mom was 100% Irish and has red hair
my gosh,
and blue eyes. And then I have some red hair on my mom's side of the family. But whenever people see Ranger, they're like, where did the red hair come from? And Ray, without missing a beat, says, the UPS guy has red hair. Just to...
Rick the UPS
Oh, yeah, Rick the UPS guy.
The UPS guy's name is Rick.
Fair. I don't know what his name is. So, yeah, Ray retired he was working for the defense media activity out of the kind of in the Pentagon area. It was Crystal City at the time. But I think all Crystal City's closed up now and moved back to working at the Pentagon. But he was still there. He stuck around when I took the job at the Corps' office in Sacramento. I was working for Corps headquarters in D.C., and I took the job in Sacramento, and he stayed for not quite a year after I moved out here. We picked the house, got set up, and then he went back and finished out, kind of gave lots of notice so that he could kind of...
Yeah, because at that rank, he could go 30 years.
Yes.
He had...
I think 32 even.
Yeah, something like that. They're letting them stay longer. And so once you make rank, I have friends that are still in that not that I was in with, the people I've met since then, and they have changed those rules. So as you make rank, and then also they're getting rid of the ones that don't make rank.
Right.
It's like, nah, you don't get to stay.
I think if I hadn't gotten that job, he would have stuck it out the full 32 or whatever the number is that they would have allowed him to stay. But I did get the job.
Well, he was at that point. It's like, I need a sugar mama.
He's like, I'm ready.
I'm ready to retire.
I'll let her work while
I picked the right woman.
Well, I tell you what, I picked the right man, because then he used his GI Bill to go to Cordell Bleu to become a professional chef because he loves it.
What?
And it was like all like the Hell's Kitchen TV shows. I mean, it was intense. And he was actually questioned on his first or second day of school, like, people who don't really want to do this for a living, like professionally, don't usually do well in this. It's a very intense environment. And he's like, oh, I've never met a challenge I didn't like. He's like, bring it.
Yeah.
And he was, I kid you not, the last man standing in his class. There was nobody left by the end of the year. They had all either dropped, been kicked out, or a couple of them went to get a bachelor's instead of just the certification program. So a couple of them moved to a different program, but he was literally the only person left in his class.
Why are we interviewing you?
I don't know.
Bring
He's
Rick
amazing. Like, his life is way more cool than mine.
Rick in. We'll just...
Well, and then, but wait, there's more, because
okay.
he still had a little GI Bill left. And so he just finished up a year-long certification in massage therapy. So I have my own professional chef and massage therapist.
I'm moving in.
You know that song
He's
that
amazing.
says, where can I find a woman like that?
Yeah.
The women are all saying, where can I find a man like that?
I get that a lot. Where, does he have any brothers? No, so he doesn't have any brothers. Sorry.
And my son's too young for you.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Wow, that is amazing.
So we've had some wild experiences. And in that time, before we moved back out here, when we were in Germany still, we had the opportunity to go do the shows, the evening news from Iraq. And so, it was optional. I didn't have to, because I was a civilian. I could have said no, but I employed that, do that which you fear the most. And I went. And we were there for a little over a week, about a week and a half. And we did 3 shows from different places where troops were stationed in Iraq. And it was unbelievable. It was terrifying and fascinating. And, but, it was another one of those things that I put on my big girl pants
Yeah.
and I was like, that's it. I'm going to do it. And I did it. And it was unbelievable, very rewarding experience. And then when we moved to DC and I was working for Corps headquarters as the speechwriter for the general, the chief of engineers. And at the time, the Corps was really heavily in the rebuilding mission in Iraq. This is like 2007 to 2010 timeframe. And they were always looking for civilians who would volunteer to deploy. So I said, I'm going to do it. Took some convincing of Ray because he was like, I think that this would be really good for your career. I think this would be really good for you. I don't know how I feel about this. I'm very uncomfortable with this. But we were able to kind of cross that bridge and get to that point where he was like, okay, we can do this. And of course, I don't think he slept for 6 months. I, on the other hand, went to be the director of communications for the Gulf Region Division. And I lived in Iraq for 6 months in a converted Connex box that was converted into a little apartment for me. I had my own bathroom and everything. It was awesome.
Wow.
If I deployed to Afghanistan, I had to share a bathroom. So I was like, oh, go to Iraq. So
Easy decision.
it's like, no question. Unbelievable experience. And, and we would have to, the air raid sirens would go off when they were shooting bombs at us and we would have to go into the bomb shelters and wait it out. And just an unbelievable, incredible experience. I got to make the most wonderful friends. The people, some of the Iraqi nationals that I worked with were like some of the most wonderful, kind, loving human beings I've ever met in my life. But again, it was just this life-changing experience, both from opening the doors to other worlds and realizing that things are not as they always seem. When you grow up in, a small town and this is your world, you don't get a bigger picture of what things are really like in the world. And so, just broadening those horizons and hopefully knocking down some of those silly things that we believe in the back of our minds. And it was an incredible experience. And professionally, I got probably 3 years worth of intense international public relations experience in 6 months because we were working 7 days a week and 14-hour days. And it was unbelievable and just incredible experience. And the most humbling experience as well, to go to some of these schools and visit where the school's literally like made of mud and there's no, windows, there's no air conditioning. They've got 3-4 kids to a desk. They're sharing everything. And the kids are so dang excited to be there because they're getting an education. Yep. And I was just so struck by that it was one of those moments that just makes you go, oh my God, we are so spoiled. We have it so good and we complain about everything. Yeah. And there are people in this world who would give anything for 1/100th of what we have. Yeah. And it just changes you and makes you really want to make the world a better place.
Yeah, I feel like I took my son to Costa Rica. We were doing we did medical clinics and mission work up the northern side of it into Nicaragua, and so you're sleeping on dirt floor, whatever. If you get a shower, it's a tube coming out of the wall with water. You know? And I remember he was excited about going. And Costa Rica is really beautiful. You get in the city and that's very different. You start getting out in the way back. And so it was such a life-changing experience for him. And I really feel like that is important for people who don't recognize what they have here, And he came back different, and he was like, I'm very appreciative of what I have here. And it's like until you go to a third world country or you go to a place where a war area where they're threat of their lives every day. Yep. And then when you get to see that with education, you go to our school system, they could care less. And here you see these kids that are excited about the fact they even get to go.
Even though it's 120 degrees and they're crammed in there because they want to learn to better their lives for themselves and their families. Yeah. And we are so spoiled. I mean, talking about your son's experience, it may not be a popular opinion, but I would be all for like mandating the Peace Corps or something like that. Like you graduate from high school, you have to do some kind of service for a year.
I say that over and over again. Yeah.
And then you have earned, maybe a free ride to college or some good scholarships or something to help you get to that next level in your life. But go serve and see just how lucky you are. Yeah. So you appreciate what you have better when you come back.
I've said it before. I think if we made it mandatory to go in the military 2 years, every boy and girl, period.
Yeah.
During Vietnam, I was 1A. I knew I was going.
Yeah.
There was no question in my mind. But I enlisted because I believed it wasn't my decision. Whatever decision they made in government had nothing to do with me. My decision was wherever you put me, I'm going to do what I need to do, right? And it was like we had a different mentality. Now it's like, well, if I go in, am I going to get free college? Am I going to get right? But at the same time, if you offer that, if you say, look, I think that if we had that within 5 years, we'd be in a different country.
We would.
In 5 years, you'd have such a great appreciation instead of this attitude that like somehow everybody owes me something, and they don't owe you anything. And I do want to add this. I've met a lot of kids that have been in like 4-H or the Sea Cadets or these different organizations. They are not like that.
Right. Because they teach service. They understand the value
and
of
so
service.
There's great credence to what you're saying, because we need that. We need these organizations. We need to support the FFA. We need to support 4-H. We need to support the Sea Cadets. All these little organizations, because these kids are getting way more than just taking care of animals. They're getting leadership skills. They're learning how to serve other people. And I just think, I think you're right on target with that. If there was a way to do that. I mean, I don't know that we'd ever do that, but the Peace Corps, and there's Vista, I think we used to have. It was called Vista, and it was where kids would serve in another country. And so they literally got to go, like the Peace Corps, they got to go somewhere and see it.
I'll tell you what, it's never too late to start a life of service, right?
No.
And so this will be my opportunity to get in my free plug.
There you go.
Do it.
I am the president of the Rotary Club of Marysville. And
I didn't know you were president.
You didn't know that?
Excuse me, Madam President. I didn't know.
Yes, you shall address me as Madam President.
Did you not see her pen?
I just want to ask for forgiveness for man-spreading in front of you.
As you should.
Well,
the nerve of me. I got a little too comfortable there.
I have to say, I didn't know what Rotary was. I mean, I just thought it was like, like the Masons or something like that. Like I didn't really know. And I went to a meeting because someone was speaking about Yuba water stuff, and that's how I walked into the room. And I was just struck by how fun the people were. Like I'm like, oh, the way they're bantering off each other, and I was like, this is a fun group. And then I was like, what the heck is Rotary anyway? And so I started looking into it, and I got invited back to come back as a potential member. And so I started digging in a little bit deeper, and oh my God, it's such a wonderful organization. Like it is changing the world all over the world. Yep. And it's such a wonderful organization. And locally, that's all we do is service, right? We raise money. We had our big fundraiser, Sodbusters. Thank you for that donation to the J. That was wonderful. And so we had our big event, and we raise a good chunk of money with this one fundraiser we do every year.
Good.
And then we pour that money back into the community. So for us this year, the way we do Sodbusters, which is like the most fun event in this area all year long, and it's always the Friday before rodeo. So save the date, mark your calendar, September 12th next year. And it's such a great event. So what we usually do is half of the money we raise goes into our foundation. We have a foundation that is the Marysville Rotary Foundation. And then the other half is the president's selection for some organization in need or some program or a project in need. And so my beneficiary this year is So You Can, the South Yuba County Action Network.
Yeah.
I love them so much. I love what they do. And the deliveries on the right before Christmas, being part of that. My son, we took him for the first time probably 4 years ago, maybe right before COVID. And then every year after that, are we going to do deliveries? Are we going to, because it changed him, right? He got the bug from being able to deliver these things that are things we take for granted, and he's giving them to people who wouldn't otherwise have them. And it just lit his world up. He loved it so much. Awesome. And so, being part of Rotary, being able to do things like that to help people in the community, whether it's, funding the Drake's baseball and, helping sponsor that, or rebuilding the baseball park, the Keono Field. We do all sorts of things like that. Some of it is we donate money to the cause. A lot of it is we get our hands dirty, which is the best part when you're actually physically working to make a project happen and see the fruit of your labor making your community better.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. So I would invite anyone to check out our website, rotaryclubofmarysville.org. And
I love you.
And then holler at me, shoot me an email, and would love to have you come to a meeting. And I've been trying to get you to come for ages, like always. Why aren't you a Rotarian? You have a Rotarian's heart.
Don't you just know that you have to say that Ray will be there?
Oh, that's a good idea.
And then
What?
Ray.
If I say Ray, not Rick, Ray.
Yeah, I don't want to see Rick. I'm not interested. He's like the pool boy. I don't want to.
That Rick, he's so much trouble. She's saying if I just tell you Ray is going to be at my Rotary meeting, maybe you'll come.
Yeah, so you guys can talk more stories.
Here's the only difficulty I've had is because if I belong to one, I got to, right? Because I represent.
Oh, no, you can choose the best one, which is ours.
You are a very persuasive young lady. Yeah, we're out of time.
Oh, my goodness.
And so before we get totally out of time.
Aw, thank you.
That is for braving the tank.
Oh, the tank was not so bad. It was an awful lot of fun. I can't believe you got me to talk about 12-year-old me, though.
Well,
it's the best.
I am amazed how much you and I have in common. I am really amazed, except for I never owned a Hugo. So I never will. It's like, but yeah.
Yeah, it is.
You are absolutely a class lady. You really are.
Thank you so much.
Your experiences in life have made you who you are. And then, of course, you're connecting with Ray changed your life in an amazing way. So I'm really glad both of you guys are here. I think he's a ghost. I will meet him.
Eventually. If you go to that meeting.
I go to them. What are you doing?
I'm helping.
She's helping.
I'm helping.
Kelly.
You're welcome.
Anyway,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I this is why thank you for being willing to do this, is because a lot of people may know DeDe Cordell as Yuba Water Agency because it's where you work and you're involved. I wanted them to know that there was a DeDe beyond that and that there's a reason why she's the person she is. And which I was amazed at some of the stories. I'm still having to process that. It's like, whoa, I really like her now.
Well, so I know we're almost out of time, but let me just throw in one more plug.
Yeah.
If anybody needs a voice actor,
yes,
DeDeCordell.com. Yeah, we never even got there. See, I tell too many stories. I talk too much, but DeDeCordell.com. Or
go to a Rotary meeting.
Yeah, or come to a Rotary meeting and meet me.
DeDe,
but yeah, that's like my side hustle, and I'm having so much fun doing it. And it's just been
What's been your favorite job in that?
So I just wrapped up. In fact, I have another one that they just hired me for one more. But DoorDash, I just got hired for a bunch of DoorDash commercials, and they were so much fun. So if you are watching like anything, and whether it's Hulu and an ad comes on for DoorDash, don't skip it.
It's you.
Make sure you watch it. If it's DoorDash, watch it. Because I haven't seen one yet. They haven't come out yet, but they were so much fun to record.
Oh, that's cool.
They were very sassy, very kind of just a ton of personality in them. And they were an absolute blast. So that's been the most fun. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And of course, I'm doing it at 4:30 in the morning because that's when I have time. So I hit the booth, knock out my VO work, and then
you did a book.
I did a couple of books, yeah.
And what was that? Because it was an audio book, and you told me about it.
The most recent one that I would encourage people to listen to is called The Dragon from Chicago. And it's really interesting. It's about a reporter who was the bureau chief for the Chicago Tribune during World War II. So a woman being the head of anything in the 40s is like, wow, that was unusual in and of itself. But it's her story. As she went through watching Hitler kind of rise in power. And so you really get a deep dive in the like how it happened and how all these little pieces, I would say, came together, but it was really falling apart, right? It was how everything kind of fell into the wrong place in order to put him in power that caused all the destruction that he caused. So, but it's fascinating, both from a woman being in charge of anything and her pursuing her dream and finding her way in that time, as well as the story of World War II. So, fascinating story. The Dragon from Chicago. But you have to listen to my voice for, I don't know, 8 hours? I forget how long the book is.
Yeah, well, you know how I am about it. I just, right, I'm enamored with it. It's like, oh, it's DeDe. Right? It's like, you know. So listen, am I on the right camera? I always got to check. What do I know, right? Oh, that one. Okay.
It's his first day.
So don't
every day.
Every day is the first day. It's like, if I ever get one of those, what is that called where you can't remember stuff? Oh, old age. If I ever get that.
It's happening.
It's CRS, right?
Yeah. Remember the big bread store, the big bread building. I can't even remember that one. Anyway, we want to thank DeDe Cordell for coming on. What a great gal, great story. And if you want to find out more, you can go to DeDeCordell.com. And that will lead you to where she does voiceovers. You can listen to 93Q Radio, and every time a Yuba Water Agency spot comes on, DeDe is the voice behind that. I call her Sister Golden Voice, like Sister Golden Hair, only about the voice. Right? Anyway, and then now DoorDash.
Yes.
And so excited. But I would just say this, please take her advice. Please hear her story and take her advice about broadening your horizons. Be willing to take that step. We've had Kelly in a conversation with you about, Kelly said, hey, she saw a sign they were going to hire a fireman. And she actually, before she could stop herself, she called the number. I'm telling you, there's great wisdom from these two gals in how to move forward in your life in a very unique way. Sometimes it's the things you fear that are actually the things you need to do. So we're going to be right back. And when we come back, Kelly and I are going to talk about DeDe Cordell.
Uh-oh.
How exciting it was to have her in here.
All good things.
Thank you guys so much.
93Q Radio was an opportunity for what's called an LPFM to give the community a voice.
The big part of what's happening here is it's us. It's the community of us.
The work that Mr. Fischetti has done with us to promote public education has been absolutely groundbreaking.
They have the pulse of our community, from the nonprofits to the local governments. If you want to find out what's happening in our community, get on board with 93Q.
And 93Q does so much to help our community, helps us promote our local events, as well as local businesses, and tell our story about what we do here in Yuba Sutter.
The folks that work here, they're part of our community, so they understand our needs, and that's important.
Local radio is so important during times of emergency. They're there. We lean on them to provide information to our public.
My wife and I are glad to support 93Q. We're going to do it on a monthly basis, but I really recommend that if you want to make your community better, this is a great place to take a first step right here.
So if you can, reach deep into your pocket and give to 93Q.
93Q is a great partner for law enforcement, and they're a great partner for the Yuba Sutter area.
We're really asking people if you can give $10, $15, $20 a month, and then that enables us to continue to put small business spots on the air, nonprofits, organizations that are they're using every dollar they got just to operate, and they don't have extra money to spend on really promoting their cause. And that is why community radio, to me, I'm grateful to be part of it, and that's why it's important. Well, we're back, and I don't know how you guys viewed that, but to me, talk about an absolutely amazing insight.
Yeah.
You know, DeDe was just very candid, and it's like, okay, this is who I was. And she laughed. She said, so you had to start at 12?
She said she was just thinking back to it. It was so funny. It was perfect timing.
It was almost like that's when her life started,
yeah.
You know, at 12, right? And it's like, so... Yeah, what a great gal, huh?
I had never met her. I adore her now.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I had this genius idea. Maybe she records the bread care instructions so you'll listen to them.
I would. Over and
I
over.
know you would on replay.
Don't you like her voice?
I do.
She has this very inviting voice. She could be everybody's mom.
Yeah.
Everybody's, whatever, sister, whatever.
Yeah.
She has that it just says, welcome home.
Yeah.
She has a great
It's
voice.
soothing, but it's not like put you to sleep.
Yeah.
It's like
no.
welcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so DeDeCordell.com if you need a voiceover for something. And
I'm going to have her read me bedtime stories.
Exactly. You're going to
For you, bread care.
Yeah, bread care. I get to listen to the bread care stories as I drift off to sleep,
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
But I had to laugh. She was very embarrassed by not her life, but the fact that she owned a Yugo. Right?
I know.
It's like, yeah,
Not
I
that
get
she
it.
was suspended twice. That wasn't the kicker. The kicker was
those were
the car.
terrible cars. They were terrible.
I know.
They just fell apart. They
Yeah.
were just so cheaply made. But people bought them because they were inexpensive.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah.
Yeah, but she said she lost a window backing up. There's something not okay.
Fell out. So she didn't get a chance to talk a lot about where she's at now, where she's going. But I think you can pretty much read from her life. I didn't know she was in Iraq.
I didn't know either.
Yeah.
And not just there 6 months.
Oh, buddy, that was
Yeah.
that was an
That's
eye-opener for
life-changing, though. I think you come home from, I went to Africa almost 2 years ago now. And I came home from that experience. And it's really, everything is first world problems. You come home and it's like, I can turn on water and have a hot shower. I kid you not. Like, you think I don't wash my hair on hot days. I came home from like 10 days of not good. Well, there's just no water pressure, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting showers, but it's not the same. You come home and it was like, oh my gosh, hot water and, a comfy bed and the fact that you get food at a grocery store, all of these things, just everything else becomes first world problems. It's like your family is healthy, you're healthy. I mean, nothing else matters.
I think we need a change in America. Now, people are like, think global. And I understand that, but it's also, how about we think about our own country, right? Not in a negative way.
No.
Right? But that let's take care of the problems we got here. I think that's wise.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to level the playing field, right? Let's dump America, become a third world country so that everybody's even. And it's like, that's never going to happen. There's always going to be people, no matter what country it is, right? So at the same time, if you're keenly aware of the world, that it's like that, it doesn't take a lot now. Step out your front door.
Yeah.
And you can see things here that are enough to make you change your attitude and have a respect for the privileges you have.
Drive by Habitat on food just like day where they're handing out food. I mean, that line of cars, and we're not talking, cars that you would expect to be in the line, right? Like there are neighbors that are hurting in our own neighborhood, our own area.
Yeah. There's got to be a way to get more involved. We want to encourage people to do that. DeDe's story was awesome to recognize. I have to laugh that I thought the guy's name was Rick. It's like what she said. I don't know, maybe it's the way I say it. And I went, what? It's not Rick, it's Rick. And so we actually found out more about him. Make me think maybe he should be one of our guests. What a great life, right?
I want to know all about this.
But he has to cook something for us.
He does. It has to be like a cooking show when he comes on. Or maybe, he gets in on the spaghetti night.
I'm telling that was such a great idea.
Kimberly and I talked about that after the show. We were like, we really need to do a fischetti spaghetti night.
I think it'd be great. Do it as a fundraiser.
Yeah.
So listen, Kelly and I appreciate you guys watching. Or hit the mic again.
Again.
Talk with my hands. I'm Italian. I can't help it. But I think of all the interviews we've done, each one is unique. And DeDe Cordell was certainly unique. I hope that you found out things about DeDe that help you understand who she is as a person and why she does, and not just her job.
No, we didn't really talk about her job.
No. We just kind of passed that by and decided, well, we're going to talk about her.
Yeah.
Which is what I want to do with these.
Yeah.
And so, again, I'm just going to say this. We have a list of guests, and so it might be a while, but if there's somebody in the community that you know and you think, I wish people knew their story, right? Then let us know. You can reach us by, how do they reach us? Go to the big bread building.
Oh my gosh.
You can reach us at we could use the radio one.
Yeah.
So you can go fish, F-I-S-H, at 93qradio.com. And then go ahead and just send me a quick email and tell me who it is.
Comment below too. They can comment on the video. If they
that's we want you to. If you're enjoying these, I see people all the time on the street and they tell me, "Oh, I love those videos. I watch them." So let your neighbors know. It's at 93Q Radio. 93Q TV on YouTube, and you get an opportunity. And one last plug. I love the plugs that DeDe did, but one last plug for bread. You can get great bread at the big bread building
he cannot remember it. Bear Creek Artisan Sourdough.
Bear Creek Artisan Sourdough. And it gives you an opportunity. It's a great thing that she makes more than that. And we should just make you a sponsor. Shoot a commercial of you and then put you. Yeah. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and stay tuned. If you hit the subscribe button, then you'll be notified, and then you'll just we will pop up with our next guest, who I haven't even talked to Kelly about.
No,
and I told you there's a surprise coming, and I didn't even tell you about the surprise, but it's coming. So stay with us. We appreciate you.